How's it going, guys? And welcome to another session of the Let's Talk Show by Interlingua. And today we're going to have a very interesting show because we are going to discuss in a very good way what's it like to be in different ages in today's world. Being at a certain age represents a lot. Experience, learning, but also watching the environment change, improve, in some cases even go in the worst way possible. But hey, like I said, it's all about the experience. It's all about learning, and it's all about watching the world turning around. Today, we don't only have one or two, but three guests, each one representing a different stage of life. So let's bring them out in the order in which they were practically born or the age that they represent. We have Carmen, we have Joep, and we have Alejandro. How's it going, guys? Good afternoon. Hi. What's up? Nice to have you here. And Alex, nice to meet you. Welcome to the Let's Talk Show. Thank you so much for participating. Anytime. And thank all of you for taking time to participate in today's show. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Age gap, generational gaps, and what comes from it. I can hold it anymore. I gotta jump right into this one. Alejandro, as I understand, you're in your current situation, you are taking care of your mother, who is, if I'm not mistaken, she is 91 years old. Am I right?
You're right. Yes, she is.
All right.
91 years.
Almost a century she has lived through. Have you had the chance? Have you had the chance to know how does she feel about it? Seeing the world change decade after decade with all these new ways of thinking, with even wonderful and sometimes catastrophic events that happen historically speaking. How does she feel about it?
Well, right now she's not as good as I would like to. I mean, she's on bed and she cannot move. She depends on somebody to feed her, to help her. But she's been like that for about 5 years, 6 years, more or less.
Okay.
It was little by little. But let's say that she was able to have her own cell phone, and she wasn't as good as for texting, but she could receive a phone call, she could take photos, for example. Maybe you could, she needs some help for WhatsApp or some applications, but at least she was very happy with that. She was amazed with, imagine everything that she saw in 80 soldiers, in 85 years, for example. It's amazing. She was very happy. Unfortunately, she didn't take care of her health, so she's paying the cost of that.
What must have gone through her mind, Like you said, she has adapted to the modern era with everything is on the reach of a click. Everything is practically on our phones. However, there must have been a time when she was way younger that there wasn't even a thought of it. I mean, they were fortunate enough just to have a telephone or even having a TV. Now look, nowadays. How another person who has seen a lot of changes throughout his life, it's Joep. Now, Joep, as I understand, you're a family man. Mm-hmm. You're a family man. You know what it's like to be a father. You know what it's like to be, you know what it's like to take care of lives and to watching them grow.
Yes.
How has your perspective on life changed, influenced by parenthood compared to when you were younger, let's say a teenager?
All right. I think teenagers have difficult lives. There is this thing with peer pressure, and people are worried. Kids are worried if they're doing the right thing, and if they're wearing the right clothes, and if they're listening to the right music, and if they're going to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, etc., etc. and then the little by little people evolve, and they have probably a steady relationship, and from that grows on into having a child or more children. So I think it's very much a process. I don't think it's something that happens like overnight. No. Of course, in the beginning, when you have your first baby, you are worried that the child is not breathing. At night, you don't hear them anymore. No, it's like things like that. You worry, you get scared. You check if they're okay in the middle of the night 3 times maybe. When they're sick and have a fever, that's just very complicated for parents. It's all very scary. And then when you have your second child, it becomes easier because you've seen these things happen before. No, and I imagine if you have more children, we only have 2, then it might get even easier. So it's very much a process. It's not something that happens from one day to the next, Mike.
And of course, someone who knows what's it like to be young these days is, of course, Carmen, the youngest one of the bunch. 22, if I'm not mistaken. Or
I was born in 2001.
2001.
I'm 22 years old right now.
I remembered. Carmen, throughout the shows, throughout our meetings, throughout our line of work, I've had the chance to know stuff about you. My question for you, it's this one. Given the fact that you are practically a 21st century girl, do you consider yourself a person from your time, or are you, like we say in Spanish, an alma vieja? Which is the latter? Which is which?
I think like in this moment of my life, I am like in a good balance between my real age and my mental age. No, I think there was a moment in my life where I really felt like that, like an alma vieja, no? As we say, because my childhood was particular, let's say, no. But no, I mean, right now I feel like I am just like in a very good balance between those two things. Maybe, I mean, sometimes I feel like I am a little, I mean, I know that people my age like go to Paris and they get super drunk or high or something, no? Yes, no, for example, and in my entire life, I have only gone to one party, no, like, and I get a little drunk and everything, but I mean, it's the only time, no? And I mean, I enjoyed it very much, no, but it was very tiring. I after that I felt tired, not like hangover, but tired, like physically tired, and like for 2 days, no, because I danced and sang and a lot of things, no. So yes, and it was very fun. It's very nice.
All right. We will continue with more comparisons in a moment. In the meantime, Alejandro, because of your situation, I could understand that, well, you and your mother have had a close relationship throughout your lives, given the commitment that you are involved in right now. But what was it like throughout the way? How did you guys found common ground, her being from an entire different generation, you born years or decades later, in which way you could relate to your mother to communicate?
Well, I think that happens when you become older. I mean, maybe when you're a teenager, obviously you think that your relatives, your parents are crazy. They don't like you. They don't want you. They want to control all your life. And as soon as you get growing, you start checking that, seeing that they do something. Most of the things that the parents do are because they are they don't want you to get hurt. But that's impossible. I mean, if you don't want a child to don't get hurt, don't have it. That's the only way. When you bring us to the world, we are open to being hurt in any way. We can find many ways to get hurt. So physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. So when I was in, let's say, my first quarter of century, 25 or so, I think we match. I mean, I was mentally growing, so I understood many things in that way. So for her, it was easier for her also. So since that point from onwards, it was easier, I think, for us.
Alrighty. Now, I would like to talk about the relationship with oneself as time goes by. So, Joep, going back to what you mentioned earlier, you said that yes, teenagers go through a lot of pressure, and you were a teenager yourself. Of course, you went through a lot of stuff that many of us go through at that stage in our minds. And I've gotten the chance to talk to you lately, and you have a very, how can I put this, chilled way to see certain stuff. In your case, what did it took for you to obtain that peace of mind and to look at things the way that you do nowadays?
Okay. That's an interesting observation, Mike. If you ask my wife or my son, they will tell you that I am not a chill person, that I am not a quiet and calm person. I have always been very impatient, but I am slightly less impatient than I used to be. Okay. So I try to be as patient and relaxed as possible at work, no? Because pushing people doesn't help anybody. But of course, yes, there is the time factor. No, it's like you see things in your life that make you realize that it's like sometimes you worry, but then later on it turns out to be okay. No, and that's like a pattern. No, it's like you said, like, oh, this is all wrong, and what is going to happen, and then later on it's fine. Okay, so if you've gone through that several times in your life, then you say like, well, it's going to be okay. And that makes you more relaxed. Well, it's like, and that's like, I think the big difference with a person who is like 14 or 19, they can be worried. I was certainly like that they're not doing the right thing, that why is this happening to me? And, those kind of experiences. Just let it go and it will turn out okay in the end.
I love that quote. Thank you for saying that.
All right.
Carmen. Aging depends on depends on who you ask. Can be either something that they might be excited about or scared about. In your case, turning the clock backwards, let's say to where you were when does one actually start thinking about getting older? Let's say 12. I like number 12. When you were 12, did you think that at your current age, you'll be facing the things that you face currently, or it would have been a total different panorama?
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I definitely wouldn't have imagined what I would be living now, no, or what I am living now. When I was 12 years old, I was not like a rebel teenager, you know. I was in that way very relaxed, no, as you can imagine, because I haven't done a lot of crazy things. But I was actually like a very sad kid, you know. And so I used to, I don't know. I Now that I see, it's like there are different types of teenagers, no? So I was like a sad teenager, no? So I think, well, in that moment of my life, I honestly didn't see myself like in, let's say, after 3 years, no? Like, I don't know. I always saw very horrible scenarios in my head and everything. So I think it's something good that uh, I don't know, like in my life so far has been better than I expected, you know, like as you was saying, no, there was like this moment of my life where everything started just going better. Of course, there are sometimes crises and very bad things and etc. No, but no, there's no way I could have imagined what I am living now. Like I recently, like very recently, 1 month ago or something, I moved again to a different apartment, no, and that also changed a lot of things, no. So also, I mean, if you had asked me 1 year ago if I would imagine what I am living now, also the answer would be no.
Oh,
That's good.
alrighty. Thank you, Carmen. Alejandro.
Yep.
Alejandro. As a man, of course, that has obtained significant experience throughout his life, at what point do you apply what you learn from your parents, and in which situations do you apply what you have learned from life yourself?
Well, little by little, I mean, for example, even though I'm not a father, my wife or my wife has a kid, so I didn't give birth to him. In fact, she has to, but I try to help them with them, and I put a lot of things that they did with me. I mean, I try to not do what I think they were wrong and totally was against, let's say, not nature, against logical things. For example, as Joep said, try to be calm, even if you're anxious, calm down, think about it. Sometimes you can change things. So little by little, there comes the times. I mean, it was like in my 30s when this happens. So all the way from now, I mean, I learned what I learned. For example, for my father, he died when I was younger, very young, like 17. He couldn't tell me many things about life, and I didn't ask him also. But I learned a lot from him, thinking, I mean, when I was growing up, saying, that's why my father didn't do this, or why he did this, and many things, many things you realize that he didn't tell you strictly he didn't write down to follow this pattern. But
Okay.
when you think about him, you realize what he did. Also, what my mom did, for example.
You. Now, before the show, you mentioned that you're about to turn 60.
Yeah.
However, next year, so you're 59. Okay, the way I look at it, there's still a long road to cover. So, what do you look forward to for years to come in your particular scenario?
Okay. My particular scenario, I guess, is a person who is in good health and is not poor. Okay, I'm not rich, but I'm not poor either. No, I'm like middle class. I can look forward to traveling a bit. No, maybe not like huge trips, but at least around Mexico, and maybe once in a while visit family in Europe once in a while. No, I can look forward to like doing hobbies and just taking it easy. And I will also work, and I will probably get a volunteer job, if you want to call it like that. No, but I do want to stress that I am very lucky in the sense that I can actually choose. Because if you are a construction worker and you've been a bricklayer carrying sacks of cement and bricks upstairs for 25 or 30 years, you are basically done. Oh, it's like your body is worn out. No? If you are a person who has very little money to spend, maybe you didn't eat very well. No, very healthy food, because you ate what was available and what was cheap. No, tortillas, frijoles. Maybe if you don't have a lot of money, you don't get the medical attention that you really need. No, so these, you could get like conditions like diabetes and things like that, just because you don't have access to these services. No, so I consider myself very lucky in that sense that I actually can choose my own panorama for the future. No?
All right. That's actually on my bucket list as well. So, Carmen, now let me put a little bit of context here. Follow me through here. I think for a long time I've said, that maybe for me, maybe I was wrong at the wrong age. I would have loved to probably live my teenage years or maybe my 20s in the 80s, given the fact that I love the 80s culture, the music, everything that was around. But I didn't consider many aspects, especially the social ones. My question for you now, can you picture yourself living your current age in another time? If not, why not?
I think that, for example, let's say the aesthetic of other ages were definitely very interesting. I also love the fashion of, for example, of the 80s or in general other times, maybe except for the 2000s. No, like that was a strange time. Yeah.
It was weird. It was.
It was weird. Yeah. But no, I think I don't know why, but I think I was born like in the right time, But
Okay.
right now, of course, my life is surrounded by technology everywhere, no? For school, for work, for entertainment or whatever. No, but when I was a kid, I did spend a lot of time playing outdoors. No, in the sun. Now my boyfriend, when he sees my pictures when I was a kid, he says like, "Ah, you were black." No, because I was like really worried because of the sun.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. But I mean, I like that there are many changes going around that are helping like women, no? You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
there are more opportunities for women, and like the differences between between men and women are every time a little bit less. No, I mean there are many differences. There are still many differences, but I think it's getting better. So yes, I think for example, now that you ask me, I thought for a second like maybe I would have liked to be born 5 years later, no, or 10 years later. But then exactly what I told you, no, that I play a lot of time outside, no, and I mean I think for when I was a kid, I didn't have almost any contact with technology, no, only the television, but that has been there for a lot of time. So I think that's something I wouldn't change. No, I mean now I have a little brother and he's 6 years old right now. I mean, he only plays outdoors or something when there's something special going on. No? When we visit my grandma, or we go to the country house and stuff. No. So, and I grew up with my grandma, no, in the country house, so that was beautiful.
Yeah. Alrighty. Guys, there's still much ground to cover, but unfortunately we're running out of time. But before we continue, I can't waste this opportunity. I have 3 people, so let's get quickly into our now traditional rapid fire round. So, first question. In your opinion, the best aspect that has come out from your respective generation? Alejandro.
We, the best. We have seen a lot of things. I mean, since we don't have so much technology, up to now we have the chance to see many great things.
Okay.
I think that's the best thing.
All right. Joep.
Adapting to technology. Embracing technology.
Okay.
I think, for example, in my generation, like something very important now is mental health. No, so I think that's something very good.
Right. Now, an aspect from your respective generations that you would consider cringy or that perhaps you're not very proud of. Alejandro.
We had a lot of, how can I say this, complex. I mean, we were against many things. I mean, if you weren't on the same way of thinking, you were against us. So all the bully thing, but unfortunately, still now, and it's even worse, I think. Things like bullying and things like that, for example.
Social toxicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You, what about you? Yeah.
Something that is happening with my generation recently is the polarization. You're in favor of something or somebody, or you're completely against. It's like people don't see the middle ground, don't find middle ground anymore. I think my generation is particularly guilty of that.
I understand. Carmen, what about you?
I don't know. Well, I think like the probably like only time will say no what this generation will bring. But now probably I would say that there is a lot of stupid content on the internet that comes from my generation. No? So I would say that some of the some of the worst things, like
Useless stuff going out there. All right.
yes. I mean, fun is good, but there are some things that are unlisted.
That insult the human intellect. Now, guys, now let's get serious for a moment and we will wrap things up. Piece of advice that you don't forget because it was always helpful for you. Alejandro.
Ooh. Think first and speak later. Think first.
I know exactly what you mean. Joep.
Well, for me, as an impatient person, have told me many times, take a deep breath and then. Well, it's different.
Of course. Carmen.
Well, for me, something that has worked at the over time is that if there's something that you don't know how to fix once, like you have no idea what you're going to fix, like you can do nothing, and eventually it will you will get an idea, or it will, like, the situation will take you to the solution, like, don't overwhelm yourself too much. That's really difficult for me because I do get overwhelmed very easily, but sometimes I let it go, like I don't care about it anymore. That's it.
And with this, we have reached the end of our show. Guys, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did and for taking time once again to be in our show. Alejandro, since you're the new person, since you're the new guest, I would like to say the thing that I tell everyone. You're always welcome. And that goes for both of you guys as well, Carmen and Joep. You're always welcome in the Let's Talk show. And for all of our viewers, that was it for today. Be sure to click in on a weekly basis to know more about the topics that we discuss in the Let's Talk show. Carmen was with us. Alejandro was with us. Joep was with us. Eric Rios was in the control. Poncho was in charge of the editing. I am Mike. Goodbye. And good night. Bye.